Hare Krishna. Welcome again to our evening Katha. We're here beside Krishna Balaram Mandir, where all these beautiful carved benches are here and beautiful stone paintings of Krishna's Leela. So today I thought we'll start doing Prikrama of the temples of Vrindavan. See how far we get, and maybe we'll continue tomorrow. So we hope that you're all safe and increasing your bhajan, increasing your hearing and chanting, and taking advantage of this extraordinary time. So today, to start, we'll sing a song that all the devotees like very much. We have a device you can look for, Brajajana Mana Sukhakari. Sri Radhe Brajajana Mana Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Sri Radhe Brajajana Mana Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Mor Mukuta Makara Krita Kundala Gale Vaijandi Mala Mor Mukuta Makara Krita Kundala Gale Vaijandi Mala Chanananupura Rasala Radhe Shama Shama Sham Chanananupura Rasala Radhe Shama Shama Sham Oh Radhe Sham 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 Sri Radhe Brajajana Mana Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Sri Radhe Brajajana Mana Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Sundara Badana Kamaladala Lochana Banki Chittavana Hari Sundara Badana Kamaladala Lochana Banki Chittavana Hari Mohana Bamsi Bihari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Mohana Bamsi Bihari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Oh Radhe Sham 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 Sri Radhe Brajajana Mana Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Vrindavan mein denu charabe gopi jana manahari Vrindavan mein denu charabe gopi jana manahari Sri Govardhana Dari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Sri Govardhana Dari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Radhe 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 Sham Sri Radhe Brajajana Mana Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Vrindavan mein Radha Krishna miliya bado Gaura Rupa Avatari Radha Krishna miliya bado Gaura Rupa Avatari Kirtana Dharma Prachari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Kirtana Dharma Prachari Radhe Shama Shama Sham Oh Radhe Sham 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 Sri Radhe Brajajana Mana Sukhakari Radhe Shama Shama Sham तुम बिना मेरे और न कोई नाम रूप अवतारी तुम बिना मेरे और न कोई, नाम रूप अवतारी, चरणन में बलिहारी राधे श्याम श्याम श्याम, नारायण बलिहारी राधे श्याम श्याम श्याम, राधे श्याम राधे श्याम राधे श्याम राधे श्याम, राधे श्याम राधे श्याम राधे श्याम राधे श्याम, राधे श्याम राधे श्याम राधे श्याम राधे श्याम, राधे श्याम राधे श्याम, जय जय श्री राधे श्याम. So again, we want to welcome you all to our evening katha. Today we're going to go around to different temples and places in Vrindavan and take you along with us. And we hope all of you are safe and sound and trying to increase your bhajan, taking advantage of this extraordinary time. So, Om Agyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chaksurun Militam Jena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namah. Sri Chaitanya Manubhistam Stapitam Vena Bhutale Sayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swaparandhikam Adadana Strinandantai Vridam Yache Puna Puna Srimad Rupa Padambujo Dulisyam Janma Janmani. Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare, Hare Rama 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 Hare Hare. Vanchakalpatrubhyascha kipasindubhevcha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we'll start today's prakama by doing prakama of Srila Prabhupada in his Samadhi Mandir. Right in front of the Krishna Balaram temple, we have this beautiful Samadhi Mandir that was built by the love of the devotees all over the world for that person who gave us Vrindavan, who gave Vrindavan to the world. So, and there's beautiful deity made by our very dear godbrother Lochan Das, sitting there, and we'll circumambulate around Srila Prabhupada. And then we'll pass that beautiful temple, Sri Sri Krishna Balaram Mandir, that he constructed. A devotee saw a piece of land. He said, let there be a temple and devotional service to the Lord. And a glorious temple appeared, and beautiful deities of Gaurnitai, Krishna Balaram, Sri Sri Radha Shyam Sundar, and devotional services going on in this temple day and night. So then we'll pass out through the back gate of the temple, and with kirtan we'll go down to Bhaktivedanta Swami Gardens and Goshala. Actually, Prabhupada was very concerned about the health of the devotees. He very much looked after his disciples and worried about them. So, even in the land of Gopal, it's very difficult to get cow's milk. So one fellow in Bombay donated his house to Pariya House. That was the original piece of the Goshala, and since then it's expanded. And Prabhupada got a couple of cows and they started the Goshala. Now we have more than around 400 cows, calves, bulls all together. And if you come there, you can get these beautiful cow laddus made from fodder and gur, and feed them with your own hand to all the cows. Because cow protection is very important, especially for devotees of Krishna, because our Krishna and Balaram, they're cowherd boys. So we'll feed laddus to the cows, and whoever wants to give donation for the cows can give donation for the cows. So then we go out the back gate of the Goshala, and we continue down the Prikrama Marg until we come to a place called Kaliyagat. Kaliyagat, as the name suggests, this is where Krishna chastised the great serpent Kaliya. What happened was that there was one great serpent named Kaliya, and he took shelter of the waters of the Jamuna just near this place. And because of his presence, all the backwaters of Jamuna became polluted. So much poison was there within him that even if a bird flew over, he would, just by the fumes, he would fall dead into the water. And he chose this place because not far from here, Sobari Rishi was meditating in the water. He was a very powerful Rishi, but he made a big mistake. Because one time he was seeing that Garuda was coming and taking the fish. So he got upset and he cursed Garuda, who's a great Vaishnava, though he's in the form of an eagle. He cursed him. That if he ever takes fish from this place, that he will die. And that became the beginning of his fall down. Later he saw the fish having sex life. He got agitated in his mind. He came out of the water. He went to the king. I can't remember his name just now. And he had 50 daughters. So he asked the king for one of his daughters in marriage. Now you know what happens when you wash dishes. After a long time your fingers get a little funny. So you can imagine he was meditating under the water for hundreds of years, how funny he looked. And the king didn't want to refuse him because he knew, this guy could probably curse me. So, but he was very diplomatic. He said, yes, whichever one of my 50 daughters wants to marry you, then she can marry you. You can have her. So Rishi was also very clever. He understood the diplomacy of the king, so by his mystic power, he made himself very, very handsome. So all 50 girls wanted to marry him. He fell down into the deep dark well of householder life 50 times over by his offense to the Vaishnava. So because Garuda couldn't come to this place, Kaliya was safe, so he took shelter here. But all the water became poisoned. And everything on the banks of the lake there was called Kaliyada, or Kaliyarada, Kaliya Lake. Everything on the banks, all the trees, everything became dried up and died due to the poisonous effects. So, one time Krishna and all the cowherd boys were herding the cows, and they came to the banks of the Jamuna and they were very, very thirsty. So, then all the calves and cows went down to the bank of the river, because generally the river of Jamuna was very, very sweet and clear. I have seen, when I first came 36 years ago, we used to drink the Jamuna water. Now it's due to Kaliya has appeared in the form of industrial pollution, and again waters are polluted. Although I've heard nowadays, because of this lockdown, the water is nice and clear again. So they drank the water and they all died. And Krishna saw all the calves and cows have died from drinking the water. Just by his merciful glance, he glanced over all. There's thousands of cowherd boys and thousands of calves. They all came back to life. This is most amazing. We hear about somebody bringing one person back to life, but Krishna brought back hundreds and thousands of people back to life. And then he climbed up, there was a Kadamba tree. Now some Puranas say that because Krishna climbed on that tree, he became immortal. This tree is known as a immortal banyan, Kadamba tree. And some other Puranas say that Garuda, knowing that Krishna will come in the future, he put some nectar on this tree. So this tree may be 5 million years old, and maybe 5,000 years old, according to which Purana you want to accept. And the Brisbasis, they tell me, because you can see there's a huge branch, looks like a branch, but the Brisbasis say that's the old trunk, just hanging out there like this, about to fall. And he said, and behind a new tree has come up, that tree will also fall, a new tree, and this way it's eternally rejuvenating itself. So Krishna climbed on that Kadamba tree, and he flopped his arms like a wrestler, he tightened his belt, and he jumped into the water and began to swim, making big sound. That sound woke up Kaliya. He wanted to know who's swimming in my lake. And he came up to the surface, he saw Krishna, and immediately wrapped him with his coils and he had many, many hoods. And with his beady eyes, he began to stare at Krishna. Krishna was wrapped in the coils. And all the cowherd boys, they became so frightened. And the earth began to shake, meteors began to fall, jackals were crying. When the Brijbasis saw these inauspicious signs, they understood something must have happened. Must have happened to our dear Krishna. So they all came running to that place. Even Mother Yasoda, and she saw Krishna in the water wrapped in the coils of Kaliya. She wanted to enter the waters to save him. But Baladev, he knew, oh, this is just a little water snake. What's he going to do? So he stopped Mother Yasoda and she fainted. Meanwhile, Krishna was there for 2 hours in the coils of Kaliya. When the Brijbasis were just on the edge of losing their life heirs, then Krishna slipped out of the coils of Kaliya and jumped on one of Kaliya's heads and began to dance. Then Kaliya raised another hood to bite him, and Krishna kicked the one beneath him and jumped on top of that one and began to dance. Now we may have many dancers out there in our audience. Do you like to have a stage that moves up and down? No, you like a nice steady stage to dance. But Krishna was dancing on a stage that was moving up and down in a very irregular way. But his dancing was so beautiful that even Lord Shiva, Nataraj, the king of dance, and Lord Brahma with his 4 heads, they were marveling at the incredible rhythm of Krishna's dance, dancing on the hoods of Kaliya. And gradually Kaliya became weak, and he began to vomit up all types of black poison, and smoke was coming from his nose. In fact, this is one of the reasons that the Brijbasis say that Krishna is black, from the smoke of Kaliya. Jaritna bata dekhana tera rang kala kyon me Kaliya naga nataya re isli me kala hum. So the Brijbasis say that's one of the reasons that he's black. Meanwhile, the Nagapatnis came. They were all Vaishnavas, and they began to pray to the Lord. And actually, it's only the Vaishnavas who can move the heart of the Lord. Because Krishna, he's equal to everyone, but still he says, those who are devoted and love me, I'm partial to them. Even though he says, Samoham Shu, he's very partial to his devotees. Probably it's natural, we all love children, but we love our own child more than others' child. And Kaliya, since he had vomited all that black poison out of his heart, then gradually it began to dawn on him who he was. And eventually he bowed down before the Lord and prayed that he was such a foul living entity, please have mercy upon me. Krishna told him, yes, I will let you live, but you leave this place. And he went off to Ramyaka Island, which Prabhupada identifies as Fiji. And the local Fijians tell that somewhere in the middle of the island there's a lake with a multi-headed serpent who lives. And all the devotees told me that who's ever tried to find that lake, they got lost hopelessly and ended up back where they started. So anyway, then again the Jamuna became clean, and that place, beautiful Kadamba tree is there, and that place became known as Kaliya Ghat. Beautiful ghats, or someone recently fixed it all up, carved stone ghats and carved stone statue of the Leela with the Nagapatnis praying to Krishna. So all the Brijbasis were very happy. So just behind Kaliya Ghat, if you go in the little lane, we find the Bhajan Kutir of Prabodhanand Saraswati, who wrote so many beautiful poems. This Vrindavan Mahimamrita and Vrindavan Satika, so many beautiful poems he's written about Vrindavan. He has a beautiful, you go back there, nobody knows it, hardly anyone knows about it. You go back there, very peaceful place. In fact, when I was president of Krishna Balaram Mandir, whenever I got totally fried with management, I would go there because I know no one would ever find me there and sit there and chant before Prabodhanand Saraswati, who was the uncle of Gopal Bhatta Goswami, who we'll hear about later on in this presentation. So, from Kaliya Ghat, we turn down the road, down the Prikrama path, and in the distance we see the temple that has become the icon of Vrindavan, Sri Sri Radha Madan Mohan, standing high on a hill. Beautiful dark red sandstone temple is there, the icon of Vrindavan. So we climb up some very high steps and we come there, and there's a small deity. He's Pratibhu, because we know the original Madan Mohan has gone to Karoli. So Pratibhu deity is there, along with beautiful Gaurnitai, and our Pujari Govindadas, he won't let us take pictures, so you have to take picture with your heart. Very beautiful deities are there. Then we walk around this temple, this big, huge, warm red sandstone dome. And behind the temple, there's a little drain that comes out from the floor. And you see at the end of that drain, you see a little tiny figure. Sometimes he's underwater, sometimes he's visible. That was Ramdas Kapoor who built this temple. Now ordinarily when we build a temple, then we want our picture on the front of the temple, we want our statue there, we want a big sign. But he put himself where the water that washes the floor will come out. He didn't want any name or fame. And then behind us there's a raised platform. We go up the steps, we get beautiful view of Jamuna flowing like a ribbon through the fields of Braj. And this high place is called Dvadashaditya Tila. Dva you can figure as 2, Dash of course is 10, Aditya is another name for the sun. So what happened, we were just at Kaliyagat where Krishna was in the cold waters of the Jamuna wrapped in Kaliya's coils for 2 hours, so he was a little cold. So they brought him to this high place and 12 suns appeared in the sky to warm him up and dry him up. And from here we get nice view of the big dome, the top of the dome, but it's missing its golden kalash. And they tell the story that what happened was during Mangalartik, some thieves would come. And because Mangalartik, they bang a lot of gongs. We got big surprise when us foreigners came to India, because we know Artik means, Mangalartik means Sansara Dava Nalalida Lo. Then Darsanartik Govinda Mari Purusham Sandhyartik Kiva Jayo Jaya Gora Chandir. Artik means kirtan for us. We came to India, we went to a temple, Artik came and was bam 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 bam. We got big shock. So while they were doing this bam bam bam, they were chipping away at that solid gold kalash. And finally one day they chipped it free, it bounced on the Dwadasa Tila, fell into the Jamuna, was never seen again, therefore we don't see any kalash on top of the temple. Then we go around to the other side of the temple, we find the Bhajan Kutir of Srila Sanatana Goswami. It happened one time when Sanatana Goswami was in Puri. He told Sanatan that I will come again to Vrindavan, you find out a nice place for me to stay. So Sanatan saw this is a nice place overlooking the Jamuna, very peaceful and quiet. So he began to fix up the place. And the other instruction that Mahaprabhu gave Sanatan was you find out this deity of Madan Mohan. Because all the deities had been moved away at some time. So one time he went to Mathura doing Madhukari, and he saw this little blackish beautiful cowherd boy running down the street, and he ran into a beautiful carved doorway, and Sanatana Goswami ran behind. He came inside, and this was the house of Purushottam Chobe. Many of the Brahmins of Mathura, they're Chaturvedis, but in Brishbasa we say Chobe. Big fat Brahmins like this, Chobes. So this was Purushottam Chobe. And Chobe had three sons, and they were playing with Madan Mohan in the courtyard just like he was one of their brothers, not showing any respect. His wife was there, not even changed her night cloth. Without taking bath, she was cooking with a neem stick. And Sanatana Goswami was horrified. He said, wait a minute, you boys can't play with him like that. He's not your brother. He's the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And how? Look at you. You're cooking for the Lord. You have not even taken a bath. How can you serve the Lord like you don't know the rules and regulations? So then Chobeji said, oh, sorry, Gosai, we'll be more careful. We'll learn all the rules and regulations. So that night, in dream, Lord came to Sanatana Goswami and said, I was having such a sweet time with my Chobeji family. Now you put all these rules and regulations, there's no fun. So in the morning, Sanatana Goswami ran back to Chobeji's house. He tried to fall on Chobeji's feet. Chobeji fell on his feet first. He said, you forget whatever I said yesterday. Lord is pleased by your service as it is. And Chobeji said, no, Lord told me that you have got 3 sons, and this Sanatana Goswami is very old. He has no one to assist him. You please let me go with Sanatana Goswami. So with a sad heart, he turned over Madan Mohan to Sanatana Goswami, who brought him back to Dwadasha Tila, but there was no temple. So he just leaned him up against a tree and was doing his service with whatever he had. And Prabhupada explains that he was getting some atta, some flour, wheat flour, and mixing it with the Jamuna water and putting in cow dung patties, and with a stick he was turning them around, and he'd break off the black spot and offer to the Lord. And Prabhupada said, Lord is complaining that, my dear sir, every day you offer me this old dry chapati ball, we call bati. You offer this old dry bati. You don't even put any salt. And Sanatana Goswami, I'm old man. Whatever I get, I offer. What can I do? That time there was no Loi Bazaar, no Gopinath Bazaar, no Bharati foods. There was none of these things. So whatever he got, we easily got. He said, you have to be satisfied with what's easily got in life. You must learn to control your senses. Of course, we cannot imitate these dealings between the Lord and His pure devotees, but he was telling like that. He said, anyway, if you want some nice opulent food, then you arrange it. I'm doing whatever I can do. So Prabhupada said, because it was offered with love by the devotee, then he was eating this old dry chapati ball without any salt. Because Sanatana Goswami said, look, today you're asking for salt, tomorrow you'll tell, oh Gosai, it gets stuck in my throat, can you put a little ghee? Then you want sweet rice, and paneer sabji, and so many puri. Where am I going to get all these things? So you make an arrangement. So it so happened one fellow from Punjab named Kapoor. If you meet anybody named Kapoor, then you know he's from Punjab. He was sailing down the Jamuna on his way to Agra. There was a big mela. So he wanted to sell his goods at that mela and make a big profit. So somehow or other his boat got stuck on the sand right below Dwadasha Tila. And he was crying, help, help, who will save my boat? I'm stuck. And one little blackish cowherd boy was there and said, on top of this hill, there's one sadhu who lives. Now in India, everybody knows sadhu means yadu, magic. So he went there and said, oh Gosai, this boy told me you can help me, my boat is stuck. He said, who told? He said, this boy. I said, he's the Supreme Personality of Godhead, I'm just ordinary Jeev. What can I do? You ask him. Then he looked at that little cowherd boy and saw that he was a deity. And suddenly his boat just floated off of the sand. Then he fell at Goswami's feet and said, oh, what do you want? You want gold, you want silver, you want pearls, you want diamonds? Sanatana Goswami, I don't want any of these things. He said, no, you must take something. You saved my boat. Now I'll get to Agra in time for the mela. Well, what is your cargo? He said, salt. He said, then you break off a block. This guy's always crying for some salt. So he gave a little block of salt to Sanatana Goswami. He arrived at Agra at the high point of the mela. He sold his cargo for the highest possible price. He came back. He built this beautiful Madan Mohan temple that has become the icon of Vrindavan. And he arranged the proper service to Madan Mohan. and proper bhog offering and everything like that. So this temple was built by Ram Das Kapoor, who became the disciple of Sanatana Goswami. So then we'll go down the front steps. We came up the back steps, we'll go down the front steps. And just nearby is the temple of New Madan Mohan. Because this temple was attacked by the Mughals, so the Goswamis, they refused to worship there. So they made a new temple, about 200, 175 years old, and established a Pratibhu deity of Madan Mohan. So there we see very beautiful deity of Madan Mohan and Radharani and Lalita and Vishakha. And interesting story, because we know most of the main deities of Vrindavan went to Jaipur, but the original deity of Madan Mohan is in Karoli. So what happened was, we heard all the deities were in Jaipur. So the king of Jaipur, he married his daughter to the prince of Karoli. Now Karoli is just about midway between Vrindavan and Jaipur, but it's not on a straight path, you have to go like that. Very beautiful place. Indian weddings, they go on for many days. The last day is called the Bidai, when the girl will leave her father's house. She's always lived under the protection of her father, now she's going. It's a very big deal. So night before the Bidai, she was crying. And the king of Jaipur, he told his daughter, he said, please don't cry, whatever you want I'll give you. She kept quiet. She's a princess, she knows all the palace intrigue and politics. He said, no, whatever you want I'll give you, please don't cry. Again kept quiet. So I promise you, I give you my promise, whatever you want, you please don't cry. And all she said was, now I'm leaving Jaipur and my Madan Mohan is remaining here. The king was smart, he understood these few words. Oh, you want to take my Madan Mohan with you to Karoli? Alright, we will put the three deities together and you will have to recognize him blindfolded, then you can take him. So all night she was praying to Madan Mohan. And Madan Mohan came in a dream, he said, I have broken my flute. I moved my hands and broke my flute. So you find the Thakurji with the broken flute, that is me. Now the first time I went to Karoli, I didn't know this pastime. I saw that you can't draw, the flute comes in here and it comes out here. You can't draw a straight line. I thought it was optical illusion. But actually he broke the flute, so they put half inside this side, half this side. And you can't draw a straight line with your eyes. So in the morning they blindfolded her. She found a Thakurji with a broken flute. She said, this is my Madan Mohan. They made a huge chariot and a big army, and they marched off to Karoli, where the huge temple, even bigger and more opulent than Madan Mohan temple in Vrindavan, with gold leaf paintings in the ceiling, and 3 altars. One, somehow or other, the king decided that Radharani will stay separate from Krishna in the night, so they have an altar for Radharani. Then during the day she comes on the middle altar, and then there's Radha Gopal, the king's deity, on the left altar. A very large courtyard, huge temple. On Makar Sankranti day, all the villagers come there. There's a big festival, very wonderful. And I forget how much it costs nowadays. They do wonderful bhog offering, and you can, for a certain amount of money, but it's booked up for months. You can buy the whole bhog offering. But in the bazaar, you'll see so many bazaars selling Mahaprasad, just like, almost like Srinathji, Nathadwar. Very beautiful. So somehow he's gone to the history behind Madan Mohan. Is that since Vrindavan is a place where Ras Leela took place, Bhadranath, Krishna's great-great-grandson, wanted to establish a special deity here. So he went to Vishwakarma, who's the engineer of the demigods, and he asked him to make a deity of Krishna. So he carved a very beautiful deity. Now there was only one person left on the planet who had seen Sakshat Brajendanandan Shyam Sundar, and that was Mother Uttara, mother of Pricket. Maharaj. And she was living in Mathura. They brought Mother Uttara, and she looked at him. He said, the lotus feet, that is Sakshat Brajananandan Shamsundar. So then, Bajranath wasn't satisfied. He told Vishwakarma, make another deity. So he made another deity, and she said, this one because the first one was from the toe to the waist, he said, that's Sakshat Brajananandan Shamsundar. When she saw the new deity, she said, the Vakshasthal, the chest, from the waist to the neck, that is Sakshat Brajananandan Shamsundar. So then he told Vishwakarma to make a third deity. When he made third deity, they brought Mother Uttara. Then immediately she covered her face, because Krishna is one of her elder relatives, and the younger members of the family, girls of the family, can't show their face in front of their elder relatives. She said, no, this Mukha Chandra, this moon-like face, is Sakshat Brajananandan Shamsundar. But then it was decided to leave it like that. So Madan Mohan, he's the deity of Sambandha, for establishing our relationship with the Lord. And that was the lotus feet. The Vakshasthal was Gopinath, whose complete surrender, Prayojana. And the Mukha Chandra, that was Govindadev. He was, what do you call it? Serving the Lord, rendering service to the Lord. So that's how these three deities came about. So offering obeisances to Madan Mohan. There's a beautiful painting there of Sanatana Goswami offering this old dry chapati ball to Madan Mohan, lining up against a tree. Beautiful painting there. And very large temple, recently also remodeled by this Braj Vikas Trust. So then there's a little road that goes beside Madan Mohan temple. It goes backside, and we go down some steps. We come to the Samadhi Mandir of Srila Sanatana Goswami. We were talking about in Govardhan in Manasi Ganga how Sanatana Goswami left this world at Manasi Ganga, at his bhajan kutir there. Then they took him and placed him at the lotus feet of Madan Mohan at this place. And recently someone gave me a donation and we fixed up this bhajan kutir. When we went to we covered the whole bhajan kutir with carved marble. Then the darshan mandap, we found that there was just bricks and mud. It was all covered with plaster, so we didn't know. When we chopped it up, we realized if we covered this with stone, it'll crash. It was already, cracks were there. So we had to redo the whole darshan mandap. We made it bigger so more devotees can fit inside, and made a very glorious Samadhi Mandir of Sanatana Goswami. And just about 4 or 5 years ago, the Russian devotees, they carved the most exquisitely beautiful deity of Sanatana Goswami. It's so beautiful, lotus petal eyes with so much Krishna prem just imitating. So you see most of the samadhis we've seen, there's always this obelisk. So on the side they established this beautiful deity of Sanatana Goswami. We had a big 3-day festival. It was a wonderful deity. And although they offer very nice bhog to Madan Mohan every day, till today they offer this old dry chapati ball, and they bring the they bring the Mahaprasad to Sanatana Goswami. If you ask the pujari very sweetly, you can get some Mahaprasad, this dry bati with no salt, even today. So leaving the Samadhi Mandir, we come back out to the main road, we pass Old Madan Mohan temple, we turn right, and there's a small little temple. Actually now it's got a huge courtyard. When I first went there, it was a tiny little temple, very small. But the Goswamis there, his father's name was Jayadev, very dear friend of mine. But Rajesh and Brajesh Goswamis have done a wonderful job renovating this temple and make very beautiful. And you'll see the most exquisitely beautiful deity of Radha, Madana Gopal. And this place is known as Advaita Bhat. And there's an old Bhat, of course, means banyan tree. And underneath that banyan tree, just recently, they established a beautiful form of Advaita Charya sitting there. And because they say that before Madan Mohan was before known as Madana Gopal. So in honor of that Advaita being found there, Advaita, there was that time there was no temples or anyone in Vrindavan, just forests. So he gave him to Purushottam Chobe in Mathura. But these are very exquisitely beautiful deities. And on our right side, on the front of the altar, we'll find a brass deity of Advaita Charya. And on the left side, we'll see a brass deity of Sita Thakurani. And Sita Thakurani is such a wonderful devotee that actually her husband is known by her name. We call Sitanath. We call him Sitanath. Then, to the right of the altar, there's a little display. They have some wooden neem deities of Advaita and Sita Thakurani and Advaita Charya. And below they have these large form, a very interesting fellow named Vijay Krishna Goswami. Way over by Gopeshwar, he had a temple, Dauji temple, that's now run by the devotees of Bhakti Pramod Puri Maharaj. And in one of the courtyards of that temple, he had a well. And he used to jump in the water of that well, and he would come up in the Ganga at Mayapur for Gaur Purnima. And after Gaur Purnima, he would jump in the water, and he would come up in his well in Vrindavan. And there they've made a huge kirtan hall, and always when we come there, kirtan is going on. And so many beautiful paintings. In fact, one painting is there, a Rath Yatra cart made out of gopis. The gopis have bent around backwards to become the wheels. Somebody's become the front of the cart. A few of the gopis are made the canopy of the cart. Radha and Krishna are sitting there on a throne made of gopis. They call it the Kandarpa Rath, the Cupid Rath. But so many beautiful paintings we'll find here. Then, leaving Madan Gopal temple, we come out the door and we turn left, and then there's a ramp going up to the right. This goes to a very special temple, one of the Astasakhi mandirs of Vrindavan. And this place was in very poor shape. So many squatters were living there. It was always dirty little kids were running around, all broken up. And but in the back there was a beautiful carved stone temple, and there we had Radha Rasbihari and Astasakhis. So about 10-15 years ago, one of our life members from Bombay, who's no longer in this world, in fact his wife just left this last year, a few months ago. I think Rajendra Agrawal, something like that. He bought this place, paid off all of the squatters to get out. He made two-story, huge hall, 2 halls, 2-story hall, and upstairs you'll find, this is where we got the idea for the paintings that line the sitting benches here. And on the side of the temple also you've seen, if you've been to Vrindavan. We got that idea because this side, especially is the west, we put paintings there but they fade out. So we made stone inlay paintings, and there he is, incredible. The workmanship is just unparalleled. Beautiful paintings. Krishna with hundreds of cows and a big white moon. And Krishna is made out of maybe lapis lazuli, all inlaid stone, no paint. And there's Krishna killing Kaliya, and there's one Radha Krishna Leela, you see Radharani's angry, she's not even looking at Krishna. And in the next corner of the painting, they've made up, and Krishna's decorating Radharani's hands. So we have Radha Krishna Leela part 1 and part 2. Then we come up these beautiful steps, and incredible, behind an inlaid stone, there's a peacock backdrop. And very high on the altar is Sri Sri Radha Rasbihari. And then coming down one step after a step, Lalita Visakha, Chitra Champaka, Induleka Tunga Vidya, Rangadevi, Sudevi. And always kirtan is going on. There's some old ladies there doing kirtan. They always stop. They're very respectful. And they stop when I try to explain about this temple. And this temple was inaugurated by the follower of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, the king of Birbhum. One district is there in Bengal called Birbhum, the king of Birbhum, Raja Ram Ranjan Chakravarti. He built this beautiful temple, and we used to come there. It looked like if you blew, the cloth was so delicate it would just fall apart. Rasbihari never had a flute. Every time the pujari said, you give donation, we'll make a flute. And they never made a flute. But now they have gorgeous outfits, just like ISKCON style, beautiful flute, beautiful jewelry. All the worship is going on very nicely. And on the front altar you'll see Rajendra Agrawal and his wife, little statues on the front altar of this temple. Very exquisite temple. Then on the other side, as we go down, there's Jagannath, there's Nathadwar, there's Balaji, and beautiful deities of, not just inlaid stone, but beautiful deities of Ram Darbar, and then Balaji, and Srinathji, and Dwarkadish, all beautiful inlaid stone paintings. In the very back, carved out of one huge stone, is Radha and Krishna sitting together underneath the Kadamba. The Kadamba tree is, of course, separate, but the stone, Radha and Krishna, and the throne is all one huge piece, and in front of them they have a huge, intricately carved Tulsi Kambab, Tulsi pillar. You've seen all intricately carved, and they plant Tulsi in the middle like this. And luckily they were old people, so they made nice steps. The steps are very short steps for old people like me to walk down. So then we leave there, and we go through some little alleys, and we come to the most famous temple in Vrindavan, Banke Bihari. Bolo Sri Banke Bihari Lal Ki Jai. And maybe 100 years ago, hardly anybody looked at this temple, but somehow or other, some businessman came, he gave a huge donation, and he became fabulously wealthy, and this temple became very famous, and this now is the most famous temple. But what happened, there was one fellow named Haridas Kirtaniya, who was local from UP, not to be confused with Haridas Thakur, Haridas Kirtaniya. And he was doing his bhajan in Nidhuban, where Radha and Krishna sleep. And suddenly he was doing his bhajan, and he opened his eyes, and these beautiful deities of Radha and Krishna appeared before his eyes. And he said, I can take him, I can't take her. I said, why not? He said, I'm a sannyasi, and she's a woman, she'll require sari and bangle and nose pin and so many things. Where am I going to get? So then the deities merged into one deity. If you have good eyes, you can see Banke Bihari. You'll see half of the dress is male, half of the dress is female, half of the crown is male, half of the crown is female. Everything is half and half. And if you come on Akshay Tritiya, coming up in a few days, Chandanyatra day, they don't do Chandanyatra, but it's the only day in the year that you can see the lotus feet of Banke Bihari. And you'll see one foot is very stout, and the foot that's leaning up is very, very dainty. Like that. He's a mixture of Radha and Krishna. And the specialty of this temple is they're always opening and closing the curtain. And every time I asked, I got a different story. One time they told a story that some guy came, one saintly person came, and he was seeing Banke Bihari with so much love that when he walked out the door, Banke Bihari walked off the altar behind him. So they're afraid he may run away again. So they open and close the curtain like that so he may not run away. Another pujari told me that he's our little Lala. Everybody's coming and just staring at him. And you feel uncomfortable. Somebody just stares and stares. You feel uncomfortable, right? So that he won't feel uncomfortable, we open and close the curtain like that. Another Pujari told me he's the Parambrahm. We're the Jeev. And the curtain is the Maya. When the curtain of Maya closes and the Jiva's desire is so strong to see again the Lord, boom, then the curtain opens and we see the Lord. Another told me that somebody came and he was seeing Banki Bihari so intensely his eyes burned out, so that nobody's eyes burn out, they open and close the curtain. I'm sure if you go there and tell somebody, ask somebody, they'll tell you another story. But he's very enchanting, very large deity, very enchanting, with very, very shiny, beautiful eyes. Bolo Banke Bihari Lal Ki Jai. So I think we'll stop our Prikrama here and take up tomorrow. We have many more beautiful temples to see in Vrindavan. So we hope you'll join with us. How many people are there? 105. So we thank you very much for coming and engaging us in service. Otherwise we're just sitting here, but you've engaged us in service, talking about Krishna. So we thank you very much. You please also give your blessings to my dear Arjun Bhattacharya, who comes here every day to set up this whole thing, because I don't know anything about it. So you all give your blessings to him, and we'll see you again tomorrow at 5:30 and continue our Prikrama of Vrindavan temples. Hare Krishna.